What's up, Hobby Maniacs? Rob Bear here today with a tips and tactics video on yet another hobby hump day. It's Wednesday. We're coming at you hot with the new Curse of the Wulfen book. Now, this is a great supplement. I feel like Games Workshop is really onto something really good here. I mean, we saw with the Kalyan and the Monka, the kind of twin back-to-back supplements that really did a lot for some of the stuff out there, like with the Tau, and then of course they kind of upped the game on the White Scars, along with the Raven Guard, and then you even got some, rules for, Farsight in there as well, and now we're kind of seeing that information or that content kind of getting regurgitated out into another form. But what I like about this supplement is that it gives them a reason, a non-codex release reason, to come up with new and exciting content to help further the storyline, help further people's hobby, and really get those creative juices flowing, not only with new kits, but also with new storyline and new rules, and updating rules to 7.5. The Space Wolves got their 7.5 update here. The Daemons kind of got straight jumped from like first to last almost, like as far as rules goes, because they had a 6th edition book, and then basically they jumped all the way up to the 7.5. They got full on Decurion and everything like that. So it's really cool to see Games Workshop bringing the heat like this. And I'm going to make a little prediction here. I would like to see in the next book, I would like to see a Space Wolf content, but also Grey Knights in maybe a little splash of Blood Angels on the side there, kind of similar to how we saw Guard and then also White Scars and Raven Guard in the Tau supplements that came out towards the end of last year. So today we're going to talk about the Daemons, and we're going to go over the part 1, our tips and tactics on the Daemons themselves, but furthermore, more specifically, we're going to talk about the Warlord traits and their special gear and their psychic powers before, in the next video, we hit up their data sheets and their formations, because you got to build that good foundation for all the tips and tactics before you jump in and start talking about the other stuff, because you're going to be going to the back of the book, referencing everything, and it's a pain in the butt. So before we jump into that section of this video, I would like to invite you to stay in the trenches, click on the Patreon link and get some free swag and help us stay ad-free on YouTube in 2016. We're actually giving away some of the new Deathwatch Marines and Gene Stealers as well this month if you sign up for supporting what we do here on Patreon. Make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel, check out the blog, spikybitsblog.com, and head on over to thelongwar.net. That's the home of the battle reports for exclusive content, early access videos, and more. Become a veteran of the Long War today. So let's jump right into it. Kind of laid it all down there, and you kind of see the direction we're going. This is going to be a 2-part video series. Part 1 coming at you right now. So here it is, the Curse of the Wulfen supplement for Warhammer 40k. Now, don't tell the Space Wolf players, but I really feel like this book was more about demons than about those guys. Though there is some pretty dope Space Wolf stuff in here, and we'll definitely cover that probably in the next series of videos. But for this one, it's all chaos all the time. Because, well, let's face it, Space Wolves, you got your 7th edition book, y'all are good. At least Chaos, or actually you got your 7.5 now because you got your Decurion and all that stuff. So, hey, kudos for you. Chaos is playing catch up, coming back into the 7th edition world there. So, we're going to talk about Chaos first. Now, when we do these, like tactics, kind of tips and tactics videos, where we break down the book, what I like to do first, obviously you've probably already seen the unboxing and the review of the whole supplement with the storybook and everything like that. But what's cool about this is I like to go in, and before we get to the data sheets and all that stuff, I like to talk about the special rules and things like that in the back, because they're going to keep popping up no matter what. When we're talking about the formations and all of the formations and also the data sheets in here. Now, granted, a lot of the data sheets in here are very similar to what they were already, but we still need to build this foundation, this good rules foundation right here to start talking about that. So first up is the Warlord traits table, the new ones, 1 for each god, which is pretty cool. We hadn't seen that before, so that was kind of cool. We just kind of had a generic one, and then you could use the ones off of the main rule book, which, now I'll be honest, the rule set, this supplement is a little bit loose. There is some stuff, if you've seen any of the rules conundrums that I've written up over on Spiky Bits, I got a few more to do actually, and they're a little bit loose. And I kind of feel like, rules as written, they're a little loose in open interpretation. Now, granted, I always feel like erring on the side of caution is always the better choice. Do I think that you can do stuff like get +4 to seize the initiative or -4 to your opponent's reserves? No, I don't. In my heart of hearts, I don't feel like that's right. But it is open, and when you step up to the table at your local game store, if you don't know who you're playing against, you might step up against that effing guy, and he tries to pull some shit like that. And it's unfortunate, and it makes a bunch of feel-badsies. So our whole goal here is, when we write these articles, is to educate everybody. That being said, there is some stuff in here that they can theoretically stack or not stack, depending on how you look at it. I'm not here to tell you how it's supposed to work. I'm just saying, hey, it could work this way. It's up to the community to respond with an FAQ or even Games Workshop, cough cough, to respond to some of their open rules. Now, that being said too, I feel like Games Workshop is always like, hey, yo, we're a model company, we're a model company, we're a model company. Dog, if you were just a model company, you wouldn't put out rules for everything. Now you see the Deathwatch stuff coming out, and everything has a data slate. Everything has a formation in there. There hasn't been much Games Workshop has put out that doesn't come with rules. Even those little collector sets come with rules. You know what I mean? Like start collecting sets. So everything's coming with a rule. So it's kind of ignorant to me to just be running wild and naked through the 40K rules universe with no cohesive lockdown. I guess. Very airtight kind of a rule set. Like it seems like it's kind of like the Swiss cheese of rules. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, it's all about getting with your opponent and playing with him and not against him, and working through some of these loopholes, so to speak. All right, ran off. Getting to the Nurgle to the Warlord traits table. I wanted to start with a Nurgle one. Now a lot of people are all about the Tzeentch. But I'm digging the Nurgle because Nurgle flying monster creatures was a thing back in the day, and they're still pretty decent, to be quite honest. And these new Warlord traits are actually pretty decent. And remember, if you're taking a CAD and you're not taking a formation out of here, you're taking a CAD in Battleforge, you get to re-roll your traits. So you have a 1 in 3 chance of really getting any of these that you want, as long as you're doing it from a CAD perspective. So just keep that in mind. So sometimes it's always good to take a CAD and then take a formation, in here. So you get if you're aiming for a Warlord trait, you kind of get that. So first off on the Nurgle table is add 1 to the wounds characteristic of a Warlord. That's actually pretty decent. That's worth a lot of points, like 35 to 40 points in game. So I feel like if you get that, you man, the myth, the legend right there. Acid Ichor. Each time your Warlord suffers a wound in assault phase, the unit that dealt that blow suffers a single strength 1 AP2 hit with the poison special roll. Kind of average. I mean, if you get it, you get it, but you're probably not aiming for that. Plague Fly Hive. Now, I like this one. Enemy units within 7 inches of your Warlord can only fire snapshots when targeting your Warlord and his unit. Now, that's a really interesting rule because it basically confers invisibility if you're shooting. However, remember that when you go up against Flamers actually don't use the snap fire special rule. They have their own thing called Torn of Fire or Wall of Fire. I forget exactly what it's Wall of Death. Whatever. Insert snappy catchphrase here. But the wording on it is it doesn't snap fire. So if you go up against like some D sites or something, they're going to get you. So just be very aware of that. Read those rules in the rule book on their templates, so you don't get caught unawares, because there's a little gray area right there that a lot of players I feel like aren't maybe aware of. But it's still a good rule, and it still gets you there, against a lot of these super shooty and super D shooting stuff out there. The number 4 Warlord trait is if a model suffers any unsaved wound from your Warlord in the assault phase, it must pass a toughness test at the end of phase or suffer 1 additional wound. Armor saves and cover saves cannot be taken. So it's kind of cool. Probably not going to aim for it. Whatever. Impenetrable Hide. Your Warlord has a feel no pain special rule. If he already has it, he gets +1. Now, there's some ways to game that system because, on the demon gifts, you can get feel no pain. So if you get that feel no pain, you get it down to a 4 feel no pain, and there's other ways to get other things too as well. You can really start gaming the system there for your demon princes. You just a stock demon prince with a couple of gifts can really start to kind of bump himself up just with that right there. And the number 6 is the Miasma of Pestilence. Enemy units within 7 inches of your Warlord suffer an unsaved wound. In the shooting or assault phase, suffer D6 additional strength 1 hits with the poison 5 special rule. Whatever, it's one of those things. So there's some good ones on here and there's some bad ones on here, but it is what it is. I like the Nurgle stuff. I think it's very synergetic and it works well with some of the Demon Prince builds out there. The Slaanesh ones, I'm not, Slaanesh is kind of like the redheaded stepchild of 40K. I feel like everybody's always trying to kill him or her and doesn't really get the respect, but at the end of the day, is pretty much a powerhouse in close combat, but it's, you know, that's the problem with 40k, is getting to that close combat. It's not like the old days, like the 3rd edition, when everything got into close combat. It's kind of like these days, it really doesn't kind of help that way. So I'm not going to go through all the wounds. You can read this at your leisure, but the celerity of Slaanesh, your Warlord and his unit can run and charge, is a pretty good one. That's the number 1 Warlord trait there. The Murder Dance, your Warlord and all friendly units with the Demon of Slaanesh special rule can reroll failed hits rolls of 1 in the assault phase, so kind of like foe preferred enemy. And that's pretty much it that I see on here, to be quite honest. I mean, the instant death is kind of like whatever. Like I said, you just got to get there. And the same, you know, the same applies to Khorne too. Khorne, that's the same, you know, fatal flaw with Khorne. Super good in combat, has to get there. And that isn't, you know, that's sometimes a tall feat, to be quite honest. And it's a little embarrassing because Khorne is probably one of the most popular Chaos Gods and Chaos builds and models out there, and it's so depressing to like kind of try to get your stuff there and then it doesn't get into assault. You know, it's kind of like the same thing with Tyranids. You know, Tyranids are theoretically on paper better at shooting than they are assaulting, but when they get there, they're really good. But it's just a problem of getting there, and that's 7th edition for you, I guess. I feel like in some regards. So on the Khorne Warlord traits table, the number 1 is okay. It's just a little fear mechanic, not exactly that great. But number 2, your Warlord has the Rampage special. I mean, that's always pretty good, right? Rampage is super good because if you are outnumbered by your opponent in close combat, so like even if you started out and then you get to his initiative and you're outnumbered, you get a lot of extra attacks, which is always super good too. Number 3, they get Feel No Pain, and all friendly units with the Demon of Khorne special rule within 8 get Feel No Pain 6 up. So that can be stacked too, and that can be gamed, and I kind of dig that. +1 to their strength is okay. Devastating Blow is okay. You know, I mean, Strength D AP2 is always good in getting that attack, but basically making a greater demon, a demon prince into D-thirster kind of, sort of, I guess, if you roll this. But again, it's only going to happen 1/3 at a time, and that's if you take a CAD in a battle-forged army. Getting Rage, number 6, Rage Incarnate is actually pretty good. Rage to all Khorne, Demon of Khorne special rule stuff within 8 inches. That, you know, if you got a good wave going of stuff with like Murder Hounds or something like that, you don't have to rely on the Demonkin book. I feel like that's a huge boon right there. So keep an eye out for some of that type stuff. Now, Tzeentch is probably by far the best Warlord traits table in here, and that's kind of why I saved it for last. So your first one is a Warlord harnesses warp charge points on a 3-up. So they basically have their own little libraries. It's not quite the 2-up, but it's still 3-up is pretty good. Now remember, stuff like this, depending on how you do it, could confer if you take the Tetrad formation in here as well. So you could have 3 Psykers casting on 3-up. It depends on how you rule, if they're all your Warlord, etc. So is that fair? No, it's probably not. But having a demon, you know, having a Warlord at Tzeentch casting on a 3-up, because some of the 3-up powers, you can give them the cloak, and you're going to see the cloak in here in a second. You give them the cloak, another guy can have the paradox. So you're going to be casting powers. You're going to have access to a lot of powers. You're going to have, one of them is a D shot as well. So casting it on a 3-up kind of gives you that flexibility to always get off your psychic. So when you start building an army and you start having around 20, 23 psychic dice, you can really do a lot of work. And you know, a lot of people are like, oh, demons are so cheesy, demons. Demons keep Eldar in check. We need the damn demons. So give us the demons. We need these guys. Trust me. On the overall meta of 40k, I feel like demons are quite a necessary evil to keep other things in check. Then we got Incorporeal Form. They up their weapon skill. That's not a big deal for shooting. They're already pretty high there. Warp Tether is actually pretty good. And 1 to their invulnerable save your Warlord and all friendly units with the Demon of Tzeentch special roll within 9 inches of him. So that's a little gameable, because remember, rolls of 1 you can reroll if you're a Demon of Tzeentch. Now you're getting +1 to your invulnerable save, so you're down to a 4. If you take things like the Cloak and get a 3-up, invulnerable save, now you're down to a 2-up, which is technically a 2-up rerollable because you reroll the 1, etc., etc. You can kind of see where I'm going there. Stacks with the Grimoire, stacks with a lot of things. So a 3 Warp Tether, whew, man, that is super solid. I'm glad they put this restriction of Tzeentch on it, because if they let everybody just wide open throttle that one, that could get a little ridiculous, I feel like. Lore Keeper of Tzeentch, you add 1 to the Warlord's Psychic Mastery level. It's good if you get it. not exactly something you're probably going to aim for. I feel like the Tyrant of the Warp ignores the first perils the Warp suffers during each psychic phase. Now, I feel like if you get this, again, it's one of them ones you want to aim for because you're probably gaming the system if you're going with a Tzeentch build. There's so many ways to do it now with the Paradox and throwing exactly numbers of dice at things, and then that leaves the rest of your casters wide open to kind of know exactly how many dice to throw at what is remaining. Or you use those guys first to try to get away the Dispel dice, and then you Paradox stuff and just cast basically what you need, I feel like. Demon Spark basically confers out Soul Blaze within 9 inches of them. It's okay in close combat. It's not exactly something to write home about there. So those are the Warlord traits. Now let's kick it over to the artifacts. Now again, there's some winners and there's some losers here. I feel like for Khorne, again, inherent problem with Khorne, got to get into combat, got to have a delivery system. But at the end of the day, super popular, fan favorite. Love seeing Khorne stuff on the table. I mean, just look at that. The reds, you know, the contrast of everything. Who wouldn't want to field that? Like, just look at it. It looks dope. You know what I mean? So you got this Slayer of the Angrath, King of Swords. Not to be confused with Angrath, one of the 4 named bloodthirsters at the Throne of Khorne, right? So it's a pretty dope sword, +1 strength, AP3 specialist weapon. When fighting in a challenge, always hits with 2 up. Now remember, you get that thing where that Warlord trait where you reroll 1s, or excuse me, I don't believe it's a Warlord trait. It's a special, I believe it's a special power of the Tetrad. There's a lot of rules to the process, a lot of things to keep in mind. Reroll failed hits a 1 if you have at least 2 models left in the Tetrad. So right there, gameable because you're rerolling 1s, you're hitting on 2s, etc., etc. I think it's super noteworthy because the only other thing in the game that hits on 2s is Karn the Betrayer. So when you see something that isn't very prevalent in the game, you definitely want to make a note of it because maybe the developers are trying to tell us something. Life Taker is another AP2 weapon. 6s to wound or instant death. It's pretty cool. For every model kill, and the unit suffers extra wounds. 1d3, strength 3 hits, AP4. It's 15 points. I don't think it's bad if you're going with the Khorne build. I definitely would consider taking it along with the King of Swords. But remember, you can only have 1 of these on each guy. The Crimson Crown throws out an extra attack at 80 inches. It's 40 points, but again, gameable with that Warlord trait. So, you know, might want to think about that build. Skull Cutter, APT specialist weapons, 6 to hit, are strength D. Again, it's a way to take basically like a faux D-thirster on whoever can take it. And remember, there's specific restrictions exactly down here on who can take what. Where are we at? So we got 2. Oh, I like the armor. The little armor down here. What is it called? The Armor of Scorn. 3+ armor save, adamantite will -1 strength when attacking its bearer. Now I feel like for its points, I would like to see it a 2-up armor save. I feel like it would have been better with a 2-up armor save because there's so many other ways out there to get 3-up armor saves that I feel like they kind of missed the boat here and they could have done something a little bit better. So that's just my 2 cents. Now we kick it over to Tzeentch, who obviously has a new Warlord, or excuse me, a new discipline of change, psychic powers. Now Khorne doesn't have any psychic powers, so we're just going to talk about the artifacts and their traits there. So we're kind of done with Khorne at this point. Now, in the artifacts of Tzeentch, these guys are super spicy, and I feel like these are probably by far the best ones in here. So that being said, let me check my notes. Here we go. So first off, we got the Paradox, and the Paradox is OMG, WTF, LOL. Because what's really cool about this, if you do this thing right, not only is it's a weapon itself, it's strength of user, AP4, melee, concussive, warp contradiction. Okay, so here's the deal. When you roll a set of dice, and I should have had some dice here to roll, however, we're just going to wing it. So when you roll a set of dice, what's really cool about this is that I'm secretly looking for dice as I talk. What's really cool about it is that whenever you roll, you get to basically flip the dice over, and that's your final roll. You have to do all of them. So say you roll, and here's the deal. You roll a 1-1-6. Okay, well, that didn't pass. Well, guess what? You flip it, you got a 6-6-1. Now, you are going to flip into a peril, so that's the only caveat of this whole thing right here. So keep that in mind. So if you want to cast a warp charge in 1 power, you theoretically only need to throw 1 dice at it, because whatever you flip it to is automatically going to pass. You see what I mean? So if you want to pass a Warp Charge 2 power, you only theoretically need to throw 3 dice at it. Now, however, that scenario could happen that I just talked about, where you get a 661, or excuse me, a 116, and then you flip it to a 661 and you perils. You flip it into a perils. So that's the only caveat to keep in mind. With a Warp Charge 3, you need to throw 5 dice at it. So literally, if you throw that many dice at any of those Warp Charge powers, you will always pass it. Now, you might pass it with the perils, so you got to keep that in mind. But what's really cool about that is you can combo that with some of the other stuff in here, like casting stuff on 3s with your other, casters, and you can really get these super combos off and kind of bait people to dispel your little chump stuff. And then you're like, boom, I now have exactly this many dice left. Boom, we're going in. I'm going to cast all this stuff, and we're going to get it done now, because it's super gameable. So if you're a player going up against, somebody with this, you got to watch out for it. It's just kind of like the old psychic battles of Warhammer Fantasy, which were really fun to do. Now, if you're a Tzeentch player, you want to be a crafty Tzeentch player, a fickle power of Tzeentch here, and you want to try to draw out those dispel dice, kind of like what I was talking about. So that's really interesting. Now, you've got the Endless Grimoire here too, which is another powerhouse piece of war gear. Your Warlord generates all his psychic powers from the Discipline of Change and knows all of its powers. So boom, you get all of these, and these are no joke nowadays, because you've got you got the Bolt of Tzeentch, which can be really high strength here at AP2, average of 8. You've got the Prismatic Gaze, which is which one was this? Oh, this is your strength D power. It's at 18. Who doesn't like a strength D shooting power at 18 inches? I mean, you're going to put it on something that's flying, so it really doesn't matter. Theoretically, I guess you have a 42-inch threat range with that, because you can fly 24 and blast something with it. Then what I really like, and we'll get to it, is the Nova power. So let's just finish this up here. Soulbane is probably the least coolest of all the weapons. It's just strength to user, melee, incorporable Fleshbane, and I don't know. It just does stuff. It's okay, but when you start looking at all this other stuff here, there's definitely some winners and there's definitely some losers, and I feel like we're gonna see, a certain amount of things on the table here. So we got the Ocular Dais. It's a Disc of Tzeentch. At the start of your turn, you can choose one friendly unit from the Daemons. Faction is reserved to automatically pass its reserves roll. Situational, probably not going to see it in a lot of builds. The Impossible Robe is basically transform something into the way Fate Weaver used to be. You get a 3-up invulnerable save. However, each time the wearer suffers an unsaved wound, he must pass a leadership test or fail from reality as he is removed from play. But remember, Demons and Tzeentch have a super low leadership in general. They get a bump when they're casting, but not generally when they're not casting. So keep that in mind right there. It is still very, very good, I feel like. What's the last thing here? Oh, the Everstaff. It's okay. It's just a, one of those crazy Tzeentch little thingamabobbers that they can get. It's all right. No big deal there. But let's talk about the Discipline of Change over here, because I am all about this thing right here. And the video's starting to get a little long, so we'll probably just get through this section and then hit up the formations and things in the next video here. So the Tzeentch got new powers, obviously. So they got 3 new powers. The 1, 2, and 6 power, 1, 2, and 5 power are the same from the Demon Codex. So they have 3 new ones. And the new ones are starting with number 3, the Nova power, that I am so awesome. I love this thing right here. It's 9 inches, strength D6, AP 4, assault 2d6, ignores cover, war flame. So it's basically like a version of Cleansing Flame from the Santic chart. But this thing is extremely gameable, because you can get some bonuses because it is a Warp Flame attack. There's ways to get bonuses between Loki, and there's also a formation in here that gives you another bonus. So theoretically, you could get this thing up to a strength 8 Nova power, depending on how you build it, and depending on what you roll, assuming you roll a 6. Now, that being said, it's only a War Charge 1 here. So you get enough demons with this thing, you're going to be flying around just like straight up like mushroom, like daisy flowering, just straight up like blossoms of like power just going off. It could get a little monotonous, but there's a lot of stuff out there that's already monotonous. This is a way to directly deal with a lot of these dirty Eldar jet bikes. You're going to be able to get after them and burn them down, because it doesn't matter if they're getting a Jinx save or whatever, you're ignoring cover. And when you're in the air, you're already so much harder to hit. You're basically popping off a blossom, and you could drop a whole squad of Eldar jet bikes right off the bat there. Now, granted, they're going to get a save, but they're going to get their normal save. But It is what it is. It's something, and it's a way to catch them, and that's what I like about it. Let's see. So the next psychic power, the new one, is the Invocation. It's a 12-inch 2-warp charge, but it basically creates an Exalted Flamer of Zeech on Chariot, or just which one is it? The Boon of Flame. This is the one that creates the Chariot, or 3 Flamers of Zeech, or one of the Burning Chariots, which has the Exalted Flamer on it, which makes him relentless. We're going to talk a lot about that guy because he's a really interesting kind of model that Games Workshop put out. He comes with the Chariot. He's also extremely gameable. You can game his strength, and he can do all sorts of crazy things and get all sorts of crazy shooting out of it. But he when you summon in a free 100-point Chariot right there that has a huge kind of profile, and you get enough of those on the table, you can start doing some crazy stuff, I feel like. Then next up is the Prismatic Gaze, which is the Witchfire Strength 8, Strength D, AP 1 Assault weapon right here. Now, it is a Warp Charge 3, but remember, it's gameable with your Paradox, or just leaving enough dice open to get it off. And with people like, they can reroll psychic checks, it can get a little monotonous, I feel like, but it is pretty cool. Now, kicking over to the Nurgle side of things, Nurgle's got some stuff, but it isn't like, OMG, I can't live without this stuff. I like Grotti, because Grotti, what's really cool about Grotti, now remember, Grotti works for everybody, but when you fly, you can put him on a Demon Prince, you can kind of fly around, and anything within him is -1 to their toughness. So you can start all these toughness 5 things that think they're so invulnerable to strength 8, which you can get a lot of strength 8 shooting in here from Zeech, suddenly becomes strength 4 and instant killable. You see what I'm saying? So it's gameable. It's a lot of points. You have to be cognizant of your positioning. But at the end of the day, I think it's a neat little combo and something that Demon players could have a little bit of fun with. Then we got Corruption. It's in combat, wounds automatically, always get a glancing hit on vehicles, etc., etc. The Horn of Nurgle's Rot is 35 points. At the end of the combat phase, you create a Plague Bearer for every model killed with the Bearer of the Horn. It's cool. It's not, it's fluffy, and sometimes that's what it's all about. Epididemy. 20 points, +1 strength combat specialist. Every time a model is killed with this weapon, unit must take a toughness test. It's failed, the unit suffers a wound. It's not exactly that great. The Bell of the End of the World, right here, or I guess the Doomsday Bell kind of thing, is 30 points, Instrument of Chaos. All enemy units get -1 leadership. It's alright. Death Head of the Olks, the old Duke. One use only strength 1, 12-inch range, AP 4, Assault 1, Poison 2, plus 5-inch blast. So, they're stuff here, you're probably not going to see it that much, even in casual games. It's honestly not that good, to be quite honest. Now, for the Nurgle tree, the Psychic Power tree, 2, 3, and 4 are actually the same. Number 1 is a Malediction. The target unit cannot run, sweep in advance, or Overwatch, and it's only Warp Charge 1. Now, this is really interesting. So, it just happens. Like, you just lock people down. And we're like, wait, what? Yeah, you just lock them down. There's no leadership test. You just lock them down. So, something to keep in mind. That one's definitely a one to keep your eye on. 5 is a Focused Witchfire, 12-inch range, AP 2, Assault 1, Ignore Cover. Instant Death. Instead of rolling a wound, target must pass a remaining wound test. If failed, suffers a wound. Warp Charge 2. It's okay. I definitely think for Warp Charge 2, it does the necessary amount of work to be worth that. And 6 here is the the Putrescence Vitality. Now you can pick the Warp Charges you want to throw at it, and they get the target unit, because it's a blessing, gets +1 toughness for every Warp Charge you throw at it. So keep that in mind. That you could see, and that could get abusive when you start getting toughness 8 things, start getting free Iron Arms, and things like that on different things. Slaanesh, well, this whole section is just it's a little disappointing. I mean, there's some cool stuff in here, but nothing that you're going to see a whole lot. And I apologize to the Slaaneshi players out there. Y'all just gotta, man, you just get no respect, I feel like. So you got artifacts, the Soul Stealer. It's a 20-point AP3 blade, and when killing an enemy model, the bearer recovers a wound. I mean, it's fluffy. It's something you would expect to see from Zeech for 20 points. Probably worth it. Silver Shard. It's just a standard, AP3 combat +2 attack. kind of weapon thing right there. Then you got the slothful claw, or the lazy claw. This is my strong claw. It's +2 strength, AP2, melee rending specialist weapon for 10 points. Not bad. You'll probably see it. The agony whip. Now this is really interesting. I think this is a definite winner here. In combat, you roll the wound. If the enemy suffers an unsaved wound, they do not get to attack this turn. But remember, it's gameable because you can reroll your ones to hit, and Slaanesh already has pretty high weapon skill as well. So, and they take the test on 3d6, so it's probably going to happen, I feel like. Whips of Agony. Oh, excuse me, I got those two mixed up. So that was what I was just talking about right there. The Whips of Agony. And the Mark of Excess is +1 attack at the end of the game, or at the end of the... What is it? Forget this one. Oh, yeah, it gets +1 to his attacks for the rest of the game. In the fight subphase. So just, I mean, it's kind of stuff. Remember, check your restrictions down here on what you can take it on. I definitely think the true winner right here is the Whips of Agony. And then the Discipline of Excess, you know, you got your 3 normal ones. So 1, 2, and 6 are the same as the Demon Codex here. And then you got number 3, Blessing, 24-inch. Unit suffers D3 strength 3 hits, but gets Furious Charge, Rage, and Zealot. Okay, I guess that's okay. It's AP dash, strength 3, you just get your 6-up save. You may lose. I don't think it's really worth losing things like Demonettes to this kind of blessing, personally. But if you do it to something like Chaos Space Marines, it might be worth it, I feel like. Number 4 power is a Warp Charge 1 Malediction, 18 inches. You know, it's past the leadership test if they want to do anything. So you can kind of combo the lockdown mechanics here a little bit, I feel like. Strength with the Nurgle power. Strength number 5 is a Witchfire, 24-inch, strength 4, AP 4, assault 1 blast. Any unit covered by the template must pass a leadership check or suffer additional strength 4, AP 4 hits. So like I said, you know, Slaanesh, you're probably not going to see much of this. I mean, these weapons are worth taking. The whips is definitely worth taking on a Demon Prince, especially in the Tetrad. But other than that, not a lot of stuff you're going to see. And then there's the tactical objective cards right there. So we got through all of the dirty groundwork to build that formation for the whole checking out all the new formations and all the new data sheets, which really aren't new data sheets. There's a lot of content that we've already paid for and we've already seen in the past. So that will be the next video, talking about those demon data sheets and those formations and kind of breaking them down and giving you some ideas of how they interact with the current Demon Codex, as well as, you know, the new war gear, the new traits, and also the new psychic abilities too, because there's a lot of synergistic things. Demons are always about synergy, so never forget all of your stuff working together on the tabletop. Even if you got to make you a little note card, a little flow chart, you know, to just kind of map it all out in your brain, be like, this needs to stay within this many inches of this to give it this, and then you get a good game plan. And your opponent might not necessarily know what you're doing, but once they start figuring it out, they're like, oh, okay, I kind of see. But by then, hopefully it'll be too late. So that's it for this one. Thanks for checking out my tips and tactics part 1 on the new Chaos Demons from Curse of the Wulfen.
Deleted scenes, bonus content, and all the interviews and post-game wrap-up videos can be located in the Hall of Veterans on thelongwar.net. Visit thelongwar.net today and try a week completely free with no strings attached. That's not all. Thelongwar.net is also your hobby resource for exclusive early access with an ad-free experience to all your favorite videos. Members of the Hall of Veterans gain early exclusive access to multiple hobby videos,